most startup entrepreneurs end up overcommitting and then just disappointing their customers. Don't overcommit what you don't have. Commit lang kung ano yung kaya mo i-deliver. Kasi disappointed customers are worse than happy customers.
Kumusta mga kakwentuhan? Jay Olos here of One CFO and welcome to One CFO's Kwentuhan podcast. As you know, in the world of startups, we hear a lot of noise. Yung mga success stories, yung mga funding rounds, hustle culture. But what happens when you peel back the layers and get to the raw, unfiltered truth of what it takes to really build a successful startup, particularly in the Philippines? So, our guest today will help us uncover that. Our guest today has witnessed countless founders navigate the real, often unglamorous challenges behind the scenes. And so, without much further ado, I would like to introduce to you, and I am privileged to introduce to you Mr. Rene Cuartero, co-founder and CEO of HG Lab, a venture studio that has become the cornerstone of the Philippine startup scene. So, Rene will be sharing with us what he knows, hard-won lessons, cultural nuances, and all those untold stories in really building successful ventures in the Philippines as a venture builder, as an investor, and also from a perspective also as of a founder, because Rene is also a founder himself. No, so Rene, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jay. Sobra naman haba yung ating introduction.
Oh, kasalanan ni Marik yan. One of the things that I really like what you guys are doing in AHG Lab is that you have that eye of spotting yung mga startups talaga that are bold ideas, can really do innovation disruption. I just want to ask muna, maybe for our viewers or audience, no, take a little step back. Sino ba ang isang Rene Cuartero? So maybe can you walk us through how you started to become a venture builder?
I think siguro pwede nating tingnan yung perspective na how did I start to become really a entrepreneur. Because at the core naman, di ba, as a venture builder, venture studio, even as an investor, you're an entrepreneur to its core. You could look at it from one perspective. Family-wise, my dad was an entrepreneur.
Oh.
Through and through. So talagang malaking influence sa akin na nakita how he, started having a rice selling business hanggang magkaroon ng iba't ibang mga business out of that. Tapos, after that, actually, growing up, ang sabi lang talaga sa akin ng parents ko ay basta magkaroon ka ng okay na trabaho, okay na yun. Pero I think if you're exposed to your parents really, being entrepreneurs, you find your way towards that.
Yeah.
So after graduation ko talaga from college, yung first work ko was in Singapore. That I worked with Procter & Gamble there. Then moved to Deutsche Bank. Tapos I was lucky to have a scholarship to do my master's in the Netherlands. So for a while, I was living there and that's when the startup bug really caught up to me. Lagi akong uneasy dun sa corporate setting nung saan ako nagsimula. Then, I got the opportunity to build together with a team. Una naming parang entrepreneurial path talaga is parang development organization siya. So, we were working with a lot of, it was a consultancy company. So, hindi siya tech. Because I'm more known in the tech space, but in reality, like starting with brick and mortar types of business. Kind of similar with One CFO na it's really providing services.
Yeah.
So for us, we were providing services for governments across the globe. We were working with central banks. And we grew that business to about 100 plus countries.
Wow.
Before it got acquired and absorbed by the OECD. OECD is one of the world's largest organizations that bring together policymakers.
Yeah.
So that was my first taste.
So you were a policy maker.
I would say policy advisor. So I was not really making policies.
Oo.
But then we were looking at, hey, what are the structural problems in a country? At that time, we were trying to solve financial literacy across the globe. So how can children grow up to become better financial decision makers? So in my core talaga, it's finding ways to help others make better decisions. And at that time, we were trying to help people, basically children who could grow up to become adults, to make better decisions with their money. If you teach people how to save and spend, that's one thing. Yung other thing is how can they build assets, which is yun nga paano ka maging entrepreneur.
Yeah.
May pera ka, paano mo siya gagamitin, paano papalakihin. That's when we started a company called Yeah Community. We started it out in Switzerland. After 3 years, we were operating around 90 countries.
Wow.
Mainly working with, again, governments. But then this time, the goal is to teach young people how to become entrepreneurs. We built, I don't know, 2012, 2013, pag isip mo yung social media. At that time, isipin mo, if you're an entrepreneur, usually magjo-join ka sa mga Yahoo.
Yeah.
What if you had a online community of young entrepreneurs going through the same problems, needing the same mentorship, etc. So we built that mentorship para siyang edtech platform. Kasi doon, you were working with a lot of young entrepreneurs, connecting them with seasoned entrepreneurs or executives to provide coaching, etc. So for entrepreneurs, it was great because they get parang coaches or mentors. For governments, it was great because they could kind of say na, may
Yeah.
nagawa kami. Tinulungan namin yung mga entrepreneurs ito na mabigyan ng better mentorship or capacity building. For corporates and seasoned entrepreneurs, they were happy because they could feel like it's a CSR thing. Role ko palagi is, yes, we were building companies, but the companies we built were really ways to educate and empower whoever we work with. And it's the same thread din sa AHG. We provide that support when it comes to capital. We provide support by helping them with their mentoring, also helping them raise to the next round. So yun yung, in a very, very vague and general perspective,
Now, I just realized you're also a sea turtle pala. Oo, diba? So parang, okay, para sa mga hindi nakakalam, sea turtle is a term na ginagamit ngayon sa startup industry referring to those Filipinos na who used to live and working abroad at bumalik sa Pilipinas to start their own parang businesses here. So we call them sea turtle. I'm also a sea turtle. So
other term na ginagamit nila din, mga pawikan na.
pawikan.
Balik sa Philippines.
Okay. So now let's move to AHG Lab.
Yeah.
Do you have a thesis or industry agnostic ba kayo? Yung mga ganon. What do you look for in a startup to help build or even invest into?
So nagsimula kami talaga starting in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
So in the early days of AHG, actually startup kami. We didn't start as a venture builder. We actually started as a prop tech venture. So kung alam niyo yung Lamudi, so something na pwede ka mag-list ng properties mo online. And we saw that although Lamudi was there, ang mga Pilipino yung talagang ginagamit na product, kaya ginagamit na rentals is yung mga low cost rentals, whether it's office, whether it's bed space, etc. So we started that out in the early days of the pandemic with the hope, and then we were able to raise money after a few months of the pandemic. But we all knew what happened. The pandemic didn't really open up the way that we expected it to be, and we ended up parang being stuck. So yung lesson doon, well, if you started something and it looks like it's not gonna work out, kasi yung business model namin, it required people to rent, it required people to list their rentals. Pero kung walang magre-renta, hindi, wala kang business model. But then we were very lucky to have the money. So we went back to our investors and said, hey, what we can do is transition this money and find out what ideas we could actually earn from, even without any parang the economy opening up. So we really betted naman on, hey, what transactions can happen kahit na wala yung movement ng tao. Kaya importante na you communicate well to your investors. Ito yung sitwasyon. Alam namin yung perang binigay niya, it's for this particular thing. It won't work. Will you support us going towards another direction? And they supported us. Kaya naging venture builder na kami, which became, parang, initially we were looking at property because that's what knowledge we had. But then we became sector agnostic and really founder focused. Nagsimula kami na ang idea namin is basta meron kang bright idea, tapos meron kang magaling na founder or management team na pwede namin isalpak dun sa idea. Tapos you throw money at it, it's gonna be successful. It's not true. So we were really idea-centric noon. Para sabi magagaling idea. Na-realize namin na you can't build companies out of ideas kung walang founder na alam at mahal yung problem na sinosolve.
Yeah.
So we also
Founder market fit. But,
this founder market fit is so important. And for us, we burned some money there, but we also, again, we needed to quickly go back to investors. This is not working. The ones that are successful are startups that the problems that they're solving were from founders.
Oh.
Kasi parang, kumbaga, let's say your example, you really breathe and
Yeah.
live, like the CFO parang
Yes.
DNA. So, alam mo what works, what doesn't work, what can be done and cannot be done. Kung walang ganong pagmamahal for the problem being solved yung founder, it will not work. At least from our experience, what works the best is when the founder loves to solve the problem that they're.
Oo. Kasi, kumbaga, building a startup as a founder, it's super hard. It's very challenging. Kung hindi ka talaga married dun sa problem na sinusolve mo, the tendency for you is to give up.
Yeah.
Diba? So, yeah, to your point, yes. And I'm also seeing kasi that there are also wannabe startup founders that are para lang mapondohan because they feel like or they think like getting funded is so cool, but they're just I'm not saying naman that they're not solving a real problem, but it's just happen that they're so unattached to the problem that they're trying to solve. So are they the right founder or the founding team to do that? That's one thing that ako as an angel investor in the past, that's the first thing that I look for. Like kasi coming from a perspective as an operator, as a founder, I know really mahirap mag-build ng startup, mag-scale at mag-exit ng startup. Maraming challenges along the way. That's why I really like the approach of AHG Lab. Which brings me to another question. Kasi, AHG Lab has been around for how many years na rin, no? Looking all of these years, dito particularly here in the Philippines, what do you think is that one massive gap that you saw in the startup community or ecosystem that made you feel like, kailangan pag-usapan to, this needs to be talked about?
So I have two hats. So one hat is parang I co-built two startups in Europe. So I've gotten to see how a good ecosystem could actually drive success for founders. And looking at the Philippines, para makikita mo na, ang galing naman itong founder, pero bakit hindi lumilipad? Nakikita mo may structural problems in the Philippines. And that is sometimes hindi naman na one, capability, but also in regulatory system,
Yeah.
yung intense red tape, how to navigate the BIR. All of those contribute to so much friction for a startup to succeed. Parang the way I would kind of explain this to others is if you rate a founder, let's say from 1 to 10, kunyari sa founders sa US and Europe, ang rating niya is 9 or 8 out of 10 yung kung gaano siya kagaling. The chances of them succeeding versus a 10 out of 10 founder in the Philippines is still higher. And that's not only because of capabilities, but because yung structurally, saan mo kukunin yung pera, saan ka utang, paano mo approach yung market, how do you reach your customers, how do you navigate tax. All of those that holds you back. So, to me, parang ano ba yung dapat pag-usapan? In reality is, ano ba ang structural and ecosystem problems ng isang founder sa Pilipinas kung bakit hindi sila nagsasucceed. And that's something na, it carries over to all other founders.
Right, yeah. And you're right. Kasi, for example, ako as a CFO now, I was able to get the experience and the skill set. Actually, my course is accountancy. Pero that's only like 20% of what I am doing right now in knowledge. It's still really the experience, exposure, and also, to your point, opportunity. It so happened din kasi na lumabas ako ng bansa. So, kumbaga, nakawala ako sa entanglements as you mentioned kanina, yung mga infrastructural challenges, problems, no, based on compliance, o ganyan. So, yeah, I super agree on everything that you said. So, how do you now, I'm just curious lang on the process ng AHG Lab. When you talk to a founder na nagpipitch sa inyo, halimbawa, what are the traits or maybe may checklist ba kayo na tinitingnan for a founder or yung startup niya kung investable ba to or hindi? Ano yun?
So, for us, aside from, a typical VC or venture studio or any investor would typically look at four things, right? Team, so is the team building it right? TAM, ibig sabihin na total addressable market. Gaano ba kalaki yung market na pwede mo maging customer? Timing. So,
timing important.
is this the right timing for you to go? Tapos, as I said about pure product itself, does it solve a real pain point? So, those are the typical things that you look at. Meron pa kami isang additional na titingnan. Kung may fit ba si AHG in terms of, you would rate that startup or founder in all those four things. And then, does AHG have the internal capability to actually supplement it or to complement it, sorry. Kunyari, when you're punta ka sa founder journey, you're gonna look for founders or co-founders. What you want to make sure is that when you team up with someone, that you are complementary.
Yeah.
For us, we look at AHG as an institutional co-founder na can we buy your right partner for you? So sometimes even if a startup is super attractive, kung hindi naman kami right partners, we also don't necessarily partner or invest immediately. So we look at it and kung nandun ba kami talaga bang ma-hyper-accelerate yung growth, yung editing and whatnot. I think everything in VC is, one aspect is, some things that are predictable, but a larger portion of whatever investment or thing you're building is also unpredictable. What you can do is de-risk that unpredictability. And you do that by being aware of what the internal strengths are and what you could contribute to the founder.
Wow.
So, ganun namin tinitingnan yun. Like, kaya ba namin ma-de-risk yung founder? Again, punta doon sa lens na, are we removing friction so that the founder could succeed?
I'm happy to hear that as a founder kasi every end of pitch, for example, yung mga pitch na ginawa ko na when I was raising my pre-seed, mga ganyan, back in last year, alay kong tinatanong, kumbaga ano yung pwede pang ma-contribute aside sa capital ng isang investor, whether it's VC, angel, or a strategic partner, ganyan, or investor. So, I'm happy to hear that kayo sa AHG talagang binibigay nyo yun. And you even assess yourself, can I actually help or de-risk this startup, this founder? Do I have the ways na I can really help the founder?
If you take a step back talagang, again, galing sa development person na parang, hey, international development, how could you create policies na very ecosystem-centered? Si AHG parang ganun din siya structure. Parang what ecosystem can we bring to the founders na it might not be complete, pero you have the chance to really tap that ecosystem.
Sige. Speaking of founders, in your experience, ano yung mga common mistake ng mga founders na paulit-ulit nilang ginagawa kahit, even if dapat alam na nila yun? Ano meron bang ganun ka na-encounter?
I think, well, depends sa stage ka.
Oo.
Pero let's say, sa very, very
Early stage,
or parang mid-early, it's overcommitting. It means you also don't know what your capabilities are. And ano yung parang tao mo, ano yung kayang gawin within the time that you have and the resources that you have. So, kunwari, you would commit na, kaya ko i-deliver yung product and service na to within this time limit or within this time bound. More experienced founders understand, may process yan, na-assess mo. Ganito karaming oras yung kailangan, ganito karaming pera, tas ganito karaming tao para ma-deliver yon in that particular project timeline. Most startup entrepreneurs end up overcommitting and then just disappointing their customers. And parang meron tayong obsession with just push out the product and it's okay to disappoint. You will see now the market has kind of transitioned where more power is actually now with the consumers and users.
Yeah.
So if you fail and disappoint them, that disappointment today is heavier than, disappointment in products in the 2015 or whatnot. So again, don't overcommit what you don't have. Commit lang kung ano yung kaya mo i-deliver. Kasi disappointed customers are worse than happy customers.
Yeah. So, I agree. If I look back, more than 10 years ago na ako sa startup community, okay lang mag-ship kami ng features na hindi pa ganun ka 100% okay. Because at that time, the consumers, the market is also hindi pa ganun sila ka-choosy. Wala pa masyadong pagpipilian. But now, the behavior really changed na. I'm talking to clients or potential clients even during my discovery call. And then, napag-uusapan namin minsan ginagamit nilang tools or mga startups na nagmamay-ari ng mga tools ngayon. And then, right there and then, they already have the feedback. We ended up not using them na lang. Parang ganun. So, that's lost customer for you guys, especially for the founders, no? So, if particularly, lalo na kung pareho tayo, we're operating in a B2B space. So,
Mas mabilis ang salita sa B2B.
correct.
And you'd be surprised na parang, tinawagan ako ni company X.
Oo.
And yung other customers within their network, ay, hindi okay yan.
Yeah.
Even if you've already parang tried to improve it. Pero yun nga, mas mahirap para mag-get over doon sa disappointed kaysa
Yeah.
nawala na yung power nung dati kasi pag meron kang tech or even typical service na parang brick and mortar service providers, pag na-disappoint mo before, para medyo okay lang makakabawi ka pa. Ngayon, ang daming service providers, ang daming tech companies, so talagang a disappointment is much more costly now. So, promise only what you can really deliver.
Yeah. Marami kasi sa atin, and I'm talking to fellow founders out there, we always want to impress our investors by promising the moon and the stars, and then come quarter reporting, we will make a lot of excuses why we did not deliver. For me, as a CFO, that means that you don't really know what you're trying to build, because risk management is part of the way you build your company, di ba? Dapat titingnan mo yung, kaya mo ba talagang i-deliver yon? Ano ba yung dependency ng supply chain mo? May nakikita ba tayong seasonality or disruption, mga ganyan. So, again, this is me talking as a CFO, always challenging those assumptions. And I think, yun nga, tama si Rene. I've seen that, I've heard that from our own clients, that talagang nagiging choosy and picky na rin sila. So, hindi pwede yung pwede na.
Sometimes nga mas pipiliin pa nila yung, okay, let's just go with what we have now kaysa mag-disappoint.
Oo. Tsaka what I also observe, mas magiging katiwa-tiwala ka na founder if you're honest. Kasi these clients, if they truly believe in you, regardless of your product, they will still, patronize you, and they will be patient na even help you pa to deliver and ship out those products, Let's now get more personal naman din. So, again, in relation to these founders, what's the hardest conversation you've ever had to have with a founder?
I would say that tell them maybe you should not be managing your company. Meaning, most founders would start at the top, and in the early stages, it's okay to do everything.
Yeah.
And you realize that sometimes a founder has a better spike in executing than strategizing and managing. And sometimes it's hard kapag sa yung idea, ang hirap tanggapin na, okay, na-develop ko yung idea, pero hindi pala dapat ako mag-grow. And two so far, where they started out as CEO, but have moved to another function into, let's say, a CMO kasi talagang galing nila mag-touch the market, or to CFO kasi sobrang galing nila in terms of really like being good with the purse of the company. Kasi I think we have this unhealthy obsession that the founder or the main founder, the CEO, is the one who needs to run it because they're the founder. Sometimes you don't need to be the CEO and sometimes yun yung magpapasucceed actually sa company. Pwede naman CEO ka rin, but then you have to kind of clearly delineate internally, okay, my role as a CEO is more of like just marketing and being the face of the company, but internal management has to, everyone, actual management goes to yung CFO or the CTO kasi mas magaling sila in board management and team management. So, I think it's hard because you have to tell someone that if you don't let go, the company's gonna fail. And sometimes the best solution is to embrace that you are not the leader that you think you are.
Yeah. Kumusta naman? Hindi naman ba siya parang tinake personally ng founder? Or?
Siyempre tinake personally. It would be alive. Kasi nabalikin na parang, how could you say that? Ganyan.
Kasi the reason why I asked that, okay, I think I saw a post in Startup PH group sa Facebook that there's a difference between a founder and a CEO. Like ako myself ngayon, I'm the founder and CEO. But sometimes kaya makikita mo yung headline ko sa LinkedIn, founder at one CFO. Kasi I always think about, am I actually the right CEO pa when this company grows to a certain scale? Kasi I know for a fact I cannot be a CEO of a publicly listed company or near near IPO level kind of company. So I have to acknowledge that. But that's me. So if ever you have that conversation with me, I won't take it personally. Para sa akin, oh, okay to. I will still have shares of the company, but
Yeah.
my company will grow.
Right.
My net worth will still grow.
Yeah.
Diba? And we've seen a lot of successful companies who went that route. I hope may mga nakakarinig sa ating mga founders ngayon. I think we really need to acknowledge that fact that maybe at certain point, maybe we're not the right CEO for our babies, for our businesses. The lessons that I have and experiences that I have gained and learned from there naman, doon naman nakakatulong sa akin ngayon as I build this company na. Okay. So, a lot of our audience are actually entrepreneurs and founders. And as we all know, a lot of them has questions when regards to fundraising. My question in regards to that is, funding is often glamorized. But I just want to discuss now yung mga often overlooked downside of raising capital too early. What really happens to this money, to these companies that founders are somewhat not really prepared for. But before you answer that, let's take a short break muna. We'll be right back. Feeling mo ba minsan, mag-isa ka sa mundo ng accounting at finance? Ang daming spreadsheets, deadlines at tanong na wala kang mapagtanungan. Saka yung feeling na walang nakakaintindi sa pinagdadaanan mo? That's why we built the One CFO Mastermind Group or OMG. Dito sa OMG, makikilala mo yung mga kapwa mo finance pros na nakakaintindi sa mga struggles mo. Makokonsult mo for free, mag-level up sa career mo at pwede ring maging kliyente pa. Grabe, di ba? Mapapa-OMG ka talaga. Let's connect, collaborate, and grow together. Ready ka na ba? Scan the QR code or click the link on the description below. Join the One CFO Mastermind Group now. And we're back again with Mr. Rene Cuartero, CEO and co-founder of AHG Lab. So, question kanina with Rene that I asked is, as you know, funding is often glamorized, but I want to discuss now the often overlooked downside of raising capital too early. And that is what really happens after the money comes in that the founders aren't really prepared for.
A lot of founders or startups would say na parang, hey, just invest in me and things will better. Or your money will grow. But then you have to look at it from the perspective also of the investor. So the investor is putting in money because they expect you to grow the money faster than if they invest it in, let's say, a bond or put it in a bank, which means na at least that's around 5-7% per annum or even faster. Because they could also invest it in other entrepreneurs and whatnot. So once they put money in you, the expectation is that the money will accelerate the business. So that also means that there's more pressure for you to accelerate everything. Accelerate your growth, accelerate you managing your team. If your fundamentals are not ready. So, as simple as reporting. If you can't even report, tapos wala ka nang ibang nire-reportan kundi sarili mo.
Yes.
Now you have to report to someone. And sometimes, especially if they're institutional founders, they expect you to report in a specific timeline. So kung hindi ka sanay mag-report, all of a sudden, parang that's an additional responsibility. So yes, it's glamorous, but it's glamour plus added pressure. And a lot of founders I see is that once they receive the money, fundamentals are not yet ready. So that includes also processes. Kaya you're a team of 10 people at magaling kayo magbenta ng product or magaling kayo magbenta ng service. The money comes in and they're expecting you to kind of multiply that. So kung lahat kayo, ang operating nyo is talagang, basta mabenta, tas i-fulfill lang, okay na. That's not gonna work. Kasi parang, kung wala kang system, how can you bring in a new team member to replicate the things that the others are doing? Kung impatient yung investor mo, that's additional pressure for you na instead na nag-iisip ka to grow your company, iniisip mo, how do I keep my investors happy? And a lot of those come from setting your foundations right.
As an investor, during the pitches ba, na ina-assess nyo rin ba if a founder can really take on the pressure of, once you put in the money, can they really grow this company fast?
Absolutely. I think if you look at it, so when an investor is assessing or parang ina-assess ang isang founder, if a founder has achieved many things in their life, they also look at have they weathered enough challenges. Sometimes nga parang may nag-fail ka na business, tatanungin bakit nag-fail.
Yeah.
Do you actually reflect on your failure and learn from them? Yung thread of your story, it matters whether it's success or failure. Kasi your failures define also how you've grown and how you reapply learnings. Sometimes ang feeling nila, nag-fail yung ganitong business ko. No, share it. Share it why it failed. Share also what you would have done differently. Kasi it means that you're learning, you're actually reflecting on it.
Yeah, and I think nga I've seen a lot of founders din naman kasi that parang nagiging stripes nila actually yung battle scars na yon from failing. Parang first-hand lesson on building businesses so that it won't happen again if ever they fail because of certain problem, how they're going to tackle that, making sure na hindi na mauulit yung mga ganon.
I'll add lang din na parang, if you look at large corporations, they have a team within large companies that are called investor relations. Yung responsibility lang nila is to report everything and communicate and get feedback from investors consistently. As a founder, kung hindi ka sanay makapag-communicate sa investor mo, both positive and negative news, and it's nice to share good news, but it's not nice to share not so good news. Pero more important actually to share to your investors, or at least to share how to navigate bad news or parang challenges. Kasi if an investor, ako personal na learning ko yun na in the earlier days, I felt that if something is bad, we don't report it. We parang sugarcoat it, palabasin na malapit nang ma-solve or sabihin na lang pag na-solve na. Ang learning ko dun is hindi pala dapat ganun. Dapat pala nangyayari pa lang. I already tell them the challenge, but then also offer na eto tinatry ko na i-solve through this. Baka meron pa kayo ibang dapat gawin. And so this is a European investor. Basically, he said na, why would you feel bad to tell me if there's a problem or challenge? I put money in you and in the business, and I want you to succeed.
Yeah.
So if you're keeping the problems away from me, then you're just making it difficult for yourself.
I've also seen founders ganun ginagawa, sinusugarcoat. And then, syempre ako sa finance, nakikita namin lahat. Like for example, when I look at the balance sheet or a P&L, somehow nagkakaroon na ako ng suspecha na there's something going on. There's something like a problem. No, so it's very important. We maintain open lines of communication talaga with our investors, particularly in delivering those bad news. Pero syempre, putting on my hat naman also as an angel investor, huwag mo na sabihin lang sa akin yung problem. Bigyan mo rin ako ng ano naiisip mong solusyon. Diba? I can help you, definitely. Pero mas magandang meron ka ng ilalatag sa akin. Then pag-usapan natin. Diba? Parang gano'n. Ngayon naman rin there are certain startups that are saying na wala raw masyadong nag-fund dito sa Pilipinas. In your experience, is it true? Do you believe in that or no?
Yes and no. Yes, because activity when it comes to VC investments is not as active. I mean, it's still active, but it's not like 2021 or 2022 na talagang left and right nagbabagsak lang ng pera. But in reality, there's so much capital in the Philippines. You just have to be able to tap the right audience and the right network sometimes. It's working against pa nga sa founders if they only see VCs as their investor. Sometimes, because it's so sexy to think that you are VC invested, that you hyper-focus on it, when in reality, there's a lot of other funding mechanisms that could help you grow.
Yeah.
Magbibigay ako ng examples na pwede kang umutang. Kung okay na yung fundamentals mo na alam mo may kinikita ka, huwag kang uutang ng palugi. Umutang ka dahil alam mo na meron kang returns. Meron ka talagang parang activities na fina-fund. There's also, if you don't want to dilute but then you want to welcome new investors, you could creatively structure the investment by doing a rev share on a project. So you say na, hey, we want to launch this project, do equity, but then we rev share on this particular thing, and then that's your test period. So it's almost like nag-fund ka ng startup within your company. Pero naka-sandbox siya na rev share with the investor. Then there are also other ways where you do parang a venture client model where you're solving the problem of a corporate or whoever your client will be, but then i-advance yung pera sa'yo para i-solve yung problem. So sobrang, and even if you just chat GPT it or what are creative ways of getting funding and structuring it, makukuha mo doon. Pero better kung i-approach mo ko tsaka si Jay to get advice. Kung
Yes.
naiintindihan, tama ba pagkakaintindi namin sa structure na to. Kasi, again, there's risk and opportunities involved, but there are so many funding mechanisms that you can think of.
Yeah.
So, yes, parang kumukonte kasi that is not as much.
Yeah.
But no, because there are so many, you see, ang dami pa rin bagong businesses na nakakakuha ng investors. Even, let's say, kunyari, restaurants.
Yeah.
Restaurants are probably one of the riskiest investments that you could make. Typically, a restaurant has a life of 2, 3, or 4 years because after 3 years, parang kailangan bago na yung concept, bago na pakulo. But they're still getting funded left and right. So, ibig sabihin, may pera sa market. Kailangan mo lang matap yung tama at ma-explain na mabuti yung product. And be creative. Not because sinabi ng Y Combinator or ng na ganito lang yung structure. That's the only structure you follow. That's where your entrepreneurial brain should come.
Yeah, I agree to that. And dadagdagan ko lang yon. We mentioned about, hindi porket sinabi ng Y Combinator, susundin na natin. Remember, we're operating in a different market. Iba yung mentality dito, iba yung dynamics talaga dito. So we cannot just copy-paste whatever they're doing in the US. I know a lot of companies who've tried that and they failed. I agree dun sa sinabi ni Rene. There are other creative ways to get funded. Di ko na lang i-name yung name, but I just recently closed a $41 million round. $41 million. Walang press release yun. And it's not even backed by any VC. I was able to help the founder to secure that capital, to help close that deal because akma siya dun sa business model ng founder. So, yung sinasabi ni Rene kanina, you can get a loan, but you have to check muna. Are your fundamentals correct? Right na ba? Do you have enough cash flow to repay the loan in the first place? Ngayon, kung losses ka pa, sino magpapautang sa'yo? Kaya marami nagsasabi, ang hirap umutang sa bangko. But you have to check also that these banks are governed by the BSP and they have a certain framework na fina-follow, yung mga ratios din nila so that marirenew pa rin yung BSP license nila. Kung magpapautang sila sa mga loss-making early stage companies, it doesn't make sense for them, no? Walang balik. But there are also, I like yung revenue base, halimbawa na sharing. That's another alternative, especially have very hefty, gross margin. Why not, no? That can also be an alternative. And the good thing about that, and this is me talking like a CFO na, no? Mapapansin niyo, it's even non-dilutive.
Yeah.
You will get the upside of getting the capital you need for the business and another upside because you don't need to give or partake any equity to that specific partner mo, di ba? So maraming ways and I like what you said nga, totoo naman po yun. Nung time kasi na yun, talagang, kumbaga yung balon, talagang umaapaw yung tubig ng mga kapital eh. Siguro, fast forward to 10 years or almost 10 years after, these funds has like those kinds of fund life, their LPs are asking for return na nagkaka-problem ngayon. So that's why there are also some funds that are finding it hard to raise their third fund, their fourth fund, mga ganyan, no? So it's not you as a founder. It's really collective, the way I see it, no? There are VCs or founders who really want to fund you, but sometimes, wala eh. The timing is not right.
Yeah.
May funding winter, may mga ganyan. Sabi nga last year, nung nasa Boab tayo, funding spring na daw. I don't know if that's true. So let's see what's gonna happen, no? Okay, but
So, wait
sige.
lang. Kanina, of course, sinabi ko na parang, dahil sinabi ng Y Combinator, dahil sinabi ng PC, ganito yung framework, dapat sundin. Hindi naman dapat sundin. My point being is like, you can't force a framework on you kung hindi naman siya akma. Although, yung life, yung pag-erase sa DC, lahat yan, meron kang hinihit na KPIs dapat. So, lahat ng yung metrics yun, sometimes, it's a good VC metric and I credit ko si Ina Flores for this. Kasi sabi niya, even if she's not racing for VC anymore at some period, she was able to use that type of discipline or VC discipline in managing and growing the business. You can sometimes get a lot of lessons from VC fund.
Yeah, agree.
Or fundraising, sorry.
Yeah. Ako, I can attest to that. Every time, may nakukuha talaga akong learnings or lessons or even suggestions pa. Mag-decline man sila, they're not going to invest in your company, may makukuha at makukuha ka pa rin inputs from them. So, hindi man sila nakatag-fund sa'yo, but you're able to get those nuggets of wisdom. And for me, that's priceless.
Yeah.
Ano naman sa tingin mo, Rene? What's gonna be the number one thing killing startups in the Philippines if funding wasn't a problem?
Red tape.
Red tape.
Red tape and compliance and regulatory requirements. I think it's so hard to navigate the Philippine regulatory environment and compliance. Hindi naman dahil tamad yung founders, but sometimes it's so hard for them to understand so many rules if they were not equipped for it. And then the other side, let's say, is our government submissions easy to understand? They're also quite hard to understand.
Yeah.
From opening a company to closing one, it's so hard to close a company in the Philippines. And sorry, explain ko lang to kung bakit feeling ko sobrang laking problema yan in Pilipinas. Isipin mo, if you are, let's say in Europe or in the US, you start a company and then you declare bankruptcy and then close it, it's not easy, but it's a streamlined process. Sa Pilipinas, pag kailangan magsara ng kumpanya, it takes so long. You have to pay so many levels and whatnot. And so what does that mean in research or innovation? Actually, it stifles innovation kasi you're disincentivizing entrepreneurs to try.
Yeah.
Parang nagsumubok ka na nga, nagawa ka ng kumpanya, let's say you fail, papahirapan ka pang isara. So, how can entrepreneurs actually keep trying and building new things kung hirap naman isa na nung ayoko na mag-start ng bago ulit. So, the government is basically disincentivizing people to try again because it's hard for them to close the last one that they've just finished.
Mm-mm.
So, yun, very passionate ako, nakakainis na magsasara ka nila ng kumpanya para kang disincentivize ka for trying.
Yeah, I can relate to that kasi I used to own my own consulting company. Hanggang ngayon, hindi ko masara-sara. Tax clearance. May nalugi ka na nga, magbabayad ka pa.
Yeah.
Di ba? And then I will let it die a natural death kung mang ganun.
But even while you're waiting for it to die, you're still paying.
Yeah, yun nga. May interest pa. Parang kasalanan mo pa na nalugi ka. They're penalizing you for closing a business. And true enough, when I also experienced closing businesses abroad, mas madali. Maybe because highly integrated yung mga government offices nila. Dito kasi, bawat ahensya, kanya-kanyang lakad. May separate process sa SEC, separate process sa BIR, sa LG, lalo pa yung LGU, iba-iba yung interpretation nila, parang mga kingdom yung mga yan eh. So, but you still have to follow because these are LGUs. Not only closing even yung simpleng yung lumalaki na yung kumpanya mo, ayan na, meron ng mga mag-i-invest sa'yo or mag-i-expand ka na, yung mere opening ng isang branch or yung amending the cap table, yung authorized capital stock mo, takes months, if not years sa SEC. And I thought, for me as an accountant myself, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Why is it taking that long? I hope lang. Baka lang naman, di ba? So,
pero kasi mo pati yung capital, you're disincentivizing foreign people to invest in the Philippines. Or for people to invest in a company here. Because it's hard to change nga, parang cap table mo. Kaya, makikita ko naging practice na ng Filipino founders na merong Singapore holding.
Yeah.
Tapos the Philippines 100% on. Pero nangyayari, yung nasa Singapore entity, pumapasok labas yung pera. Which could have been economic activity para sa Philippines. So, yun lang naman. Nasasayangan talaga.
Kung may nakakarinig ngayon sa SEC and BIR, ito ang tanong ko po sa inyo. Bakit nyo nire-require ng team ang isang foreign investor na mag-i-invest sa Pilipinas? Hindi naman sila kikita dito per se. Unless i-exit nila on a very successful manner yung investment nila dito, which alam naman natin will be subjected to capital gains tax. But di nyo na lang sila i-tax at that point. Not ihingan nyo ng team, papupunta yung isang billionaire high net worth, USD billionaire po na scrutinize sa level ng SEC natin dito. Kaya ang ending nila, they will just ask entrepreneurs like me to incorporate elsewhere.
Yeah.
So tama yung sinasabi ni Rene, nagkakaroon ngayon ng capital flight. Instead na papasok sa Pilipinas, andun sa Singapore.
Yeah.
Naging emotional po ako.
Ako rin kasi parang nakaka-voice talaga yung friction sa ating regulatory environment.
Oo. Sige, so ngayon naman Rene, I want naman to ask from a perspective of a venture builder. what do you think, specific for Filipino founders, ano yung mga kadalasang mga blind spots na nakikita mo na, aside sa mga na-discuss na natin kanina, na kailangan nila ma-address para mas maging successful sila as a founder? And maybe, pwedeng makasupplement yung mga enablers ninyo like sa ASG Lab.
Siguro happy yung sa dalawa. One is, balik lang ako sa compliance.
Oo.
Talaga. Compliance or regulatory, you complying can actually accumulate as debt for you. So kung hindi mo sinimulan from the beginning na compliant ka, once you get checked, all of those regulatory debt, I'm calling it debt kasi parang may utang ka sa hindi mo pag-comply ng tama.
Yeah.
Will bite you back in
Yeah.
the future. So that's why, parang like one CFO and a lot of other service companies and providers and tech companies that are in that space is so important.
Yeah.
Do not take it lightly because kunyari ako, within our portfolio or even like say friends and family who are doing businesses is how much I am going to be asked to pay when I get checked. Kasi pag as a business owner, gusto mo maplano mo kailan lalabas pera, kailan papasok, at yung normal na cycle nun. But if you put something that's unpredictable, you don't comply to your regulatory requirements, then that breeds unpredictability sa impact ng regulatory debt mo in the future. So that's one. The other side is I think a lot of Filipino founders feel that they are all-knowing and therefore they should be the owner of the company till kingdom come. And the one who's managing it. I think if you fail to acknowledge what expertise you need to bring in, that breeds a lot of failure. Parang sinasabi nga there's three things na super important as a founder that you need to be able to do. One, never run out of money.
Yeah.
Kasi then your business closes. Number two, you should always set the North Star. Ito yung ginagawa natin as a company. The last one would be to be able to hire people better than you.
Yeah.
Because that means that you are able to steward really better talent who could upskill you. And sometimes that better talent could actually better manage you but while you are still setting the drumbeat for them.
Another question, no? If you had to give one unsexy but a real solution to help founders survive longer, what would it be?
Nabigay ko na yung appliance.
Compliance
Super unsexy nun, pero trust me that you read you really need to do it. Wag mo siyang ipagpako sa third year na tatago ko muna yung mga activities ko. Comply.
Sige, magdadagdag na lang ako dyan. Kasi this is coming from real cases that we have seen. May notion kasi na, ayoko mag-spend ng ganito para lang makapag-comply. Tago ko na lang muna and then I just deal with it kapag nandyan na. Parang, hindi marirealize nila, the cost of compliance at that later date is actually much like 10x higher pa kung nag-invest na lang sila at the beginning. Yung doing things correctly, doing things the right at the first time. So, there are certain companies na yung nakuha nilang pera from lenders, pinambayad lang din nila ng malaking penalty. And it's not good use of money. Diba? Parang
sa unproductive use of money. Isipin mo yun, nangutang ka para lang pambayad sa penalty, hindi para gumawa ng more money.
Ang isa pang nakikita kong ito, totohanan na lang, especially with the SMEs here, yung meron kang 2 libro. Nakala mo nakakamura ka na because nag-under-declare ka ng sales, nag-under-declare ka ng VAT. So, sa totoong buhay po, matalino na ang BIR ngayon. Meron na rin silang mga tech systems na ginagamit, analytics. I know the brand name pa nga kasi during my audit days, ginagamit din namin yun. They can really catch you that you're not declaring the right sales kasi meron other ways to look into that. So yung akala mo nakapagtago ka na, biglang mag-i-hand over sa'yo na LOA. Ayun na, doon pala mahirapan ka na doon. So ang mangyayari ngayon yan, magko-compromise ka. Yung compromise mismo na yun is also costly. And not only costly, ayaw mo ng corruption sa Pilipinas, hindi mo alam, ikaw mismo nagiging accessory doon. Because of the compromise and the under the tables. And, totohanan lang naman po tayo dito. And a lot of SMEs alam yan. We're now down, Rene, dito sa ating Let's Get Real question. If you could debunk one overhyped startup success formula, what would it be?
Siguro, I came from the time na parang 2010s and early 2020s. Ang sinasabi na pag maganda yung idea mo, it will get funded. Some or maganda yung idea mo, plus maganda yung credentials mo, it will get funded. I don't think that's true anymore. Now, traction is much more valuable than whatever beautiful idea that you have. I remember this one investor parang nag-comment sa isang potential investee. Sabi niya, parang magandang babae or gwapong lalaki. Kasi ang ganda, pero walang laman yung utak. So, if you're the founder on the other side, that's very hurtful.
Yeah, of course.
Tapos, sinundan niya pa na ang ganda ng marketing, ang ganda ng mga ginagawa niya the last 1 year, pero hindi kayo marunong mag-benta or mag-execute. And yung result kasi ng benta and execute, yun yung traction mo. And the best way to prove things is when you could prove them with traction or cash. So, kung meron kang mga tao na nagbabayad sa'yo. So, sometimes, parang sabihin, basta maganda yung deck mo, maganda yung story mo, it will mean success. But nasa traction talaga. And mga anak yun, traction could be about you executing. It could also be about you being able to listen to your customers and refine. So, more than storytelling, you need to really look at, am I producing traction?
Wow. That's gold. Oo, kasi totoo, I've seen founders kasi na parang they put a lot of effort and emphasis in making their pitch deck really look good. Again, putting on my hat as an investor, as an angel, halimbawa. I really don't care kung anong itsura ng pitch deck mo. Kasi ako, especially kung educated investor naman ako, as long as maintindihan ko yung business model mo, alam ko kung gaano kalaki yung market mo and you're the right founder for it. And then there's really that, okay lang. Kaya lang nangyayari kasi ngayon because of the hype. Yun nga, parang there's also a lot of quote-unquote coaches na on the pitch deck. Pag dumating ngayon, pag ginisa na yung founder, kahit anong ganda ng pitch deck, doon nag-fail eh.
Yeah.
And there are also other founders na nakapag-raise without even releasing a pitch deck. And sometimes investors, there are encountered the VCs, investors na, okay, let's not talk about your deck. Upo lang tayo dito, usap tayo. And then from there, you close the deal. Again, because traction. A lot of founders are also building their startup for the sake of getting funded. Which is, for me, is a red flag talaga.
I also have like a interesting position there. I feel like I don't like VCs or investors that say that they're seed and pre-seed or early stage founders, but then they try to evaluate you with Series A metrics. I think, so yes, I agree it's good to track founders and parang i-assess sila kung may traction sila. But I think sa Philippines, medyo lumiliit ngayon yung pot doon naman sa talagang more high-risk capital. And in reality, the Philippines still needs high-risk, high-conviction capital.
Right.
Meaning, yung tao nag-start pala mag-build at parang gusto niya and it has high potential, lumiliit yung pot doon kasi napupunta sa everyone wants to, again, it's part of the hype. Now I'm gonna measure you with VC metrics.
Yeah.
So, nasaan yung pot ngayon ng capital that could go to early stage founders that wanna build big things or big innovations. Then another point, gusto ko lang mag-double doon sa sinabi mo na ako din yung latest para siyang acquisition/exit deal na ginawa ko. Totoo yun, walang pitch deck. We had to sit with the investor for about 5 hours. Ano yun? Discussion lang. At dapat alam mo yung number mo.
Yes.
Naiintindihan mo yung business mo, yung challenges mo. Ibig sabihin, alam mo yung kung pag nagpasok ng pera, paano lalabas. Walang pitch deck. Nag-prepare kami ng pitch deck at saka napaka-extensive na financial model. In that meeting, we didn't have to.
Oo. Yun din, yung $41 million deal na yun, we just flew in here sa Pilipinas yung chairman. Inikot-ikot lang namin. Nakita niya. Na-feel niya yung market. Done. Tingnan naman niya yung model na ginawa ko, di ba? But hindi na on the pitch deck, hindi na on the this sophisticated yung mga totoong investors or even acquirers talaga, they know it na eh. They've done their work, di ba, their research, no? So sometimes they're just trying to really see if you also know your stuff. Ganda nga yung sinabi ni Rene, dapat kabisado niyo yun. Anyway, so yun, last question na, Rene. I'm looking forward to your answer here. Rene, 10 years from now, what do you hope founders will say about AHG Lab's role in their journey?
Ideally, 10, 20 years from now, you're no longer a big deal because you change the system. You institutionalize that type of support, that type of service, which meant to change the norm. So, kunwari, yun nga yung so earlier one is about how does finance, we were really one of the earlier players in how financial literacy for young people could be designed in the policy agenda. If you look back in that during those days we're a big name, but now we're one of the many names there. Same with HG, we're but I mean I'm not saying we're a big name, but we're one of the names really known in venture building that's founder focused and that's independent or we're it's not owned by a conglomerate. If in the future we became one of the names na lang, and not na hey, the largest whatever, that means we've started a trend or we broke uh like a model that's not typical became normal. So that's the impact that you created. You created that you normalize a new model and basically change the ecosystem.
Wow. That's very humbling answer. Oh, kasi,
Serious. Kung one CFO, yes, became so big,
yeah.
it became that's the norm. If fractional CFO
Mhm.
services or parang tech CFO services became a norm, then you were part of that whole journey of the ecosystem integrating.
Mhm.
So parang ganun. Na yun yung aking, ako kung Miss Universe answer, pero that's how I feel. I don't have the feeling of attachment na, oh, si Rene, ganito, ganyan. If it's not known, but it's just the norm, you did right.
Yeah, you're part of that story. You're part of that history na,
Yeah.
wow. And I think, yeah, yung mga category making or building na businesses started like, malaki sila ganyan. And then, yung the biggest form of flattery is kapag ginagaya ka ng
Copy,
mga
yeah.
tao if they copy you, no? So, yeah, I fully agree. I fully get what you're saying. And thank you so much for that very amazing insights, no? So, Rene, thank you so much for this incredible and eye-opening conversation. And it's not every day that we get to hear such raw and honest insights about startup building, startup ecosystem, and what it really takes to build a successful company here in the Philippines. So, kaya mga kakwentuhan, I hope this episode gave you a new perspective of what really it takes to be a founder in the Philippines and reminded you na ang totoong growth po sa mga startup ay hindi lang yung nasa grand idea but in facing the unsexy, often hidden challenges head on. And then again, salamat po ulit sa pagtutok sa amin dito sa Kwentuhan Podcast. And we'll be back with another episode to help you navigate your own journey. So don't forget to subscribe, share, and this episode and join us in our next episode. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Rene.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Peace.